As the first golden rays of the sun pierced the horizon over Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré, Africa's youngest head of state at just 37, was about to begin his day when an unexpected visitor arrived at the gates of the presidential palace. An elderly man, thin and stooped by age, his hair a pale silver, stood silently before the guards. His hands trembled slightly as he held a sealed envelope close to his chest. He was a retired diplomat, once a prominent figure during a turbulent era of African politics, and his eyes carried the weight of secrets too long buried. "I must speak with the president," he said in a grave voice. "What I'm about to give him will change how he sees Africa, and perhaps the entire world." With cautious curiosity, Traoré received the envelope in the palace's private chamber. Inside was a single sheet of paper, yellowed with time, bearing a short, enigmatic phrase handwritten in Portuguese. "Debaixo da terra onde te negaram a verdade, está a prova que o mundo precisa. Beneath the earth where they denied you, the truth lies the proof the world needs." The president read the note again, his brows furrowed. The former diplomat explained in a whisper that years ago, a French colleague had passed this secret to him on his deathbed. He could no longer live with the guilt. "Africa," he said, "deserves to know the truth." Traoré felt a chill run down his spine. Since assuming power in 2022, he had suspected that the exploitation of his nation and the continent was far deeper and more insidious than official reports ever admitted. This cryptic note seemed to confirm his darkest fears. "Where exactly?" Traoré asked. "Bobo Dioulasso," the old man answered. "The former French control center. Closed in 2019. I was told there's a hidden cellar." Without delay, Traoré summoned his inner circle. By late afternoon, a discreet military unit was en route to Bobo Dioulasso, the country's second-largest city, under strict orders not to alert the public. As night fell, the abandoned French control center, a bleak gray structure that had once symbolized foreign dominance, loomed over the silent streets. Guided by floodlights and military engineers, the team began to dig. Traoré, wearing a plain jacket and standing beside his commanders, personally supervised the operation. 3 hours later, the excavation halted with a loud metallic clang. "Mr. President, we found something." Beneath layers of soil, they uncovered a concrete slab. Beneath that, a steel chamber, its doors marked with faint diplomatic insignias, deliberately scratched off, as if someone had tried to erase its existence. Nearby sat an old, rusted safe. The air grew tense. A locksmith was flown in, and after hours of painstaking effort, the safe groaned open. The contents stunned everyone present. Folders, hundreds of them, organized by year: 2001, 2005, 2010, 2015, 2019. Each one filled with classified financial records, contracts, bank transfers, and multi-language agreements. There were stamps from global banks, signed deals from oil, mining, and energy corporations, documents never meant to see daylight. Traoré's hands trembled as he opened the first folder. 7.9 billion, it read. 7.9 billion siphoned out of Ori, West Africa via shadow financial networks. "My God," he whispered. One military advisor pointed to a page. "Sir, this contract..." It's stamped, signed, and annotated repeatedly with these initials. DTJ. Traoré's expression darkened. "What does it say?" "In the margins, sir. Approved by DTJ. Mining concession validated." At the bottom of the safe, a dust-covered external hard drive was retrieved. The team's IT expert plugged it in. Slowly, encrypted folders opened: digital records, bank logs, offshore holding company charts, and a large file titled TR20, Private. Traoré immediately summoned his legal team. They worked all night. By dawn, their conclusion was chilling. "Mr. President," said one lawyer, "if these documents are authentic, we are staring at evidence of the largest economic looting operation in modern African history. The companies implicated were global giants, some household names, engaged in uranium, oil, gold, and diamond extraction. Their techniques, deceptively elegant, fake humanitarian projects, phantom foreign investments, and puppet foundations." 1. Advisor finally asked what everyone feared to say aloud. "Mr. President, the initials DTJ, do you believe it refers to Donald Trump Jr.? Traoré raised his hand. "We must not jump to conclusions, but we must not ignore the evidence either. Our duty is to the people of Burkina Faso and to all of Africa." As dawn lit the palace rooftops, Traoré made a decision that would echo across continents. He appeared live on national television. "We have discovered documents that point to the largest theft in Africa's modern history. No names for now, but those who've benefited will be revealed. Powers will tremble. Justice will begin." His declaration sent shockwaves across the continent. African media repeated it in loop. Millions watched, holding their breath. In Paris, the Quai d'Orsay issued a formal statement urging restraint and reaffirming France's historic commitment to African development. In Germany, journalist Hans Müller from Der Spiegel began connecting dots. He confirmed the existence of several companies named in Traoré's speech, each linked to a shell holding in the British Virgin Islands. Their declared activities didn't match the billions they'd funneled out of Africa. In Washington, quiet panic brewed. The U.S. Embassy in Ouagadougou discreetly requested copies of the documents. Traoré's office politely declined, pending independent review. At Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump convened a late-night meeting with former business advisors. A close associate leaked to the press, "If this explodes and American firms are involved, we must defend U.S. interests." Meanwhile, BBC Africa's Kwame uncovered a disturbing link, a memo signed by the former CEO of Trump International Mining Limited, a firm shuttered in 2015 after tax scandals. On African social media, outrage ignited. The hashtag #NowPugAfricaStolen trended globally. "While we starved, they robbed our future," wrote one user. "Trump's name is in the shadows. What does it mean for us?" asked another. Traoré immediately formed an international task force of African legal experts and financial crime investigators. Their mission: analyze every document, uncover every network, and hold every actor accountable. And so, beneath the soil of Bobo Dioulasso, a new African reckoning was unearthed. Not just of wealth stolen, but of truth denied. Professor Amina Kone, a renowned Ivorian specialist in international commercial law, stood at the center of the packed room, surrounded by legal analysts, intelligence officers, and high-ranking government officials. After 72 hours of intense investigation and scrutiny, she finally stepped forward to deliver her verdict. Her voice was firm, unwavering. "Mr. President," she began, "these documents expose a web of illicit financial flows spanning at least 4 continents. The scale of deception is staggering." The room fell into a stunned silence. She continued, "Our analysis reveals that funds allocated under the guise of humanitarian aid and sustainable foreign investment were instead funneled into a global system designed to extract African wealth. These projects were nothing more than polished facades. Behind them, billions were siphoned from the continent. The most chilling discovery came from a single encrypted email dated 2018. The message authorized a massive transfer of $900 million. The signature, merely the initials DJT, the sender, an anonymous email server located in the Caymans, but linked to a US-based network. As the news broke, it tore through international media like wildfire. On Fox News, pundits leapt to defend former President Donald Trump, claiming it was yet another politically motivated smear campaign orchestrated by global adversaries. Meanwhile, on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow asked the question now echoing across continents. If this is real, what exactly did the Trump administration know? Back in Burkina Faso, political tremors shook the landscape. The opposition party, the CDP, accused Traoré of fabricating the scandal to distract from domestic problems. But the streets told a different story. From Ouagadougou to Bobo Dioulasso to Banfora, thousands of citizens poured out, waving flags and shouting in unity. "Traoré is showing us who has stolen from us," one woman cried. "We want our money back." That same day, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, "I've never done business with Burkina Faso, sick. This is total fake news designed to distract from global incompetence. The Democrats and their African puppets are lying. Again." The post caused a media storm, but it raised a curious question. Why was he denying accusations that had not yet been formally made? Later that night, an attempt was made to hack the servers of Traoré's Special Investigative Commission. The cyber attack was massive, clearly orchestrated by skilled professionals. Thanks to advanced security protocols, the breach failed, but it sent a chilling message. Powerful entities were desperate to erase the truth. A European diplomat, speaking under strict anonymity, warned, "If Traoré continues down this path, the consequences will be severe." He's not just exposing corruption, he's lighting the fuse of a financial atom bomb that could reshape global alliances. But Traoré stood firm. In an exclusive interview with France 24, he declared, "The truth belongs to the African people. No matter who it unsettles, it must be told." All eyes then turned to Addis Ababa, where Traoré was set to speak before the African Union General Assembly. Over 2 billion people tuned in worldwide. In the grand auditorium, all 55 African heads of state were present. The atmosphere was electrifying. Dressed in his customary military uniform, Traoré walked slowly to the podium, his face marked by solemn determination. He paused, eyes scanning the room. Then he spoke. "My brothers and sisters of Africa," he began, "today I do not speak to you alone. I speak to the entire human race. What we discovered in Burkina Faso is not confined to our borders. It's a revelation that shatters the illusion of international benevolence." He unveiled a damning report, a web of offshore companies, shadowy contracts authorized by foreign prosecutors, and a systematic exploitation of African currencies and natural resources. He held up redacted documents, revealing only what was legally safe, but enough to shake the room. Then, the climax. On the massive screen behind him, he projected a contract bearing a signature with 3 haunting initials. DJT gasps swept across the room. Cameras zoomed in on the stunned faces of African leaders. Some were horrified. Others nodded silently in support. "I'm not here to personally accuse anyone," Traoré said. "I'm here to expose a system that has crushed our people for generations. Justice will come, not through vengeance, but through truth." For 10 full minutes, the assembly erupted into thunderous applause. Outside, crowds gathered in Addis Ababa chanting, "Traoré! Traoré! You speak for us all." Immediately, journalists swarmed him. A CNN reporter shouted, "Mr. President, will you name the individuals behind this?" "The documents speak for themselves," Traoré replied. "Our job is to reveal. The job of justice belongs to the world." Within minutes, Trump fired back on Truth Social. "Traoré doesn't have the guts to say my name outright. That's because he knows there's no proof. This is global defamation, nothing more." But the response backfired. His defensive tone only fueled suspicion. Progressive media outlets called for immediate investigations. Conservative ones insisted. It was all circumstantial. But in Africa, the message was clear. From Lagos to Dakar, Abidjan to Kinshasa, millions flooded the streets, holding signs that read, "Our resources are not for sale." Thank you, Traoré, for telling the truth. In Ghana, a retired foreign minister called Traoré personally. "Brother, you have just made history. Now you must survive it." That night, in his modest hotel room in Addis Ababa, Ibrahim Traoré sat in silence, exhausted but resolute. His phone buzzed incessantly, calls from global media, African leaders, and Western diplomats scrambling to do damage control. But only one call mattered: his wife. When she finally answered, her voice was full of emotion. "Ibrahim, the whole country is behind you. People are dancing in the streets. They say you're giving us back our dignity." He closed his eyes, her voice grounding him amidst the chaos. "And you?" he asked gently. "What do you think of all this?" There was a pause. Then softly, "I think you're doing exactly what God put you on this earth to do. But be careful, my love. You're confronting powers that never forgive." And in that moment, Ibrahim Traoré understood. This wasn't just politics. It was a fight for Africa's soul. As Ibrahim Traoré drifted into a restless sleep that night, his mind echoed with the words of his wife, his allies, and even his enemies. Tomorrow, he knew, would not be a day of peace. It would mark the beginning of a new war, one fought not with weapons, but with truth. And perhaps it would be the most dangerous battle he had ever faced. 5 days later, the world stood still once more. The United Nations convened an emergency session in New York. The General Assembly buzzed with an unprecedented tension. Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed the globe with urgency and gravity. "The magnitude of the financial allegations presented by President Ibrahim Traoré requires an immediate, unified global response. If proven true, we may be looking at one of the most extensive financial scandals of the 21st century." He then announced the formation of an international investigative task force, a coalition of legal and financial experts from over 30 nations, to examine decades of illicit financial flows from Africa, particularly from former colonies, into hidden offshore accounts and Western institutions. When President Traoré, now seen by millions as the face of African resistance and justice, took the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall, he was no longer hesitant. He spoke with a composed fire, directly naming corporations, shadow banks, and charity foundations implicated in the complex network of theft. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly," he said firmly, "the people of Africa offer full and unrestricted cooperation with this investigation. Our documents, our experts, our witnesses, all are ready. Justice must no longer be delayed." The room was silent, heavy with disbelief and anticipation. American delegates sat expressionless, but seasoned observers noted the tension in their body language. Across the room, the Russian delegates smirked, evidently enjoying the geopolitical embarrassment unfolding for the United States. In Washington, D.C., the storm had crossed the ocean. Under immense public pressure, the U.S. Congress launched an informal bipartisan commission to explore Traoré's revelations. At the forefront stood Senator Elizabeth Warren, a vocal critic of corporate corruption. "If any U.S. citizen, past or present, played a role in the looting of Africa, they must be held accountable under American law," she declared. Although the FBI officially denied any current investigation, sources within the Bureau leaked that a specialized financial crimes unit had been quietly activated to review anomalous transactions connected to African sources. Sensing the tightening noose, Donald Trump made a defiant move. He hosted a massive rally in Florida, where 15,000 of his supporters cheered as he unleashed his counterattack. "They're using a so-called African dictator to smear my name. Traoré, this kid who seized power in a coup, is trying to accuse America, accuse me. I've always respected Africa. I brought jobs to that continent. I supported its people. But the speech backfired. By calling Traoré a dictator, Trump ignited a firestorm of backlash across Africa. Millions saw the insult not just as an attack on Traoré, but on the entire continent's struggle for justice. Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, President Traoré unveiled a new trove of documents. These papers focused on Swiss banks and financial transfers between 2006 and 2018. One explosive record revealed a $340 million transfer from a Burkinabe gold mine to a Caribbean offshore account, attached to a handwritten note reading, "For DJT, Africa Gold Project approved." A Swiss forensic accountant working with Traoré's team confirmed the handwriting and signature style matched earlier evidence. The consistency across these documents is deeply troubling. The patterns cannot be ignored. Desperate conservative U.S. media tried to reframe the narrative. Fox News ran headlines like, "When Africa Attacks America, the New Anti-Trump Conspiracy," while Sean Hannity raged on air. "They want to criminalize Americans for investing in Africa. This is insanity." But the tide had already turned. CNN poll revealed that 67% of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, supported a transparent investigation into all allegations, regardless of who was implicated. In Europe, the domino effect continued. The European Commission launched its own inquiry into the companies named by Traoré. Switzerland, under mounting pressure, agreed to lift banking secrecy for any account linked to the case. Back in Africa, Traoré's popularity surged into legend. The Senegalese president praised him openly. "Traoré's bravery is the spark Africa needed. He's shown us it's possible to speak truth to global power." Even the usually cautious South African President Cyril Ramaphosa broke his silence, calling Traoré's actions a noble beginning to the reckoning Africa has long deserved. Then came February 25th, 2025, a date destined for history books. That night, President Traoré addressed the Burkinabe nation, and through live broadcast, the entire African continent. His face was solemn, his voice steady. "My African brothers and sisters, we have opened Pandora's box. We have shown the world how we were robbed for decades. But now it no longer matters who signed those deals, whether they hold power today or not. Justice on this continent begins now. We do not seek revenge. We seek truth. We do not want destruction. We want rebirth. But this time, we rebuild using our resources for our people." As the applause echoed across homes and streets, Trump announced he would deliver a major address to the U.S. the next day. His inner circle scrambled to craft a response that could contain the damage. But globally, the narrative had already shifted. In Paris, London, and Berlin, protests swelled. Tens of thousands marched with signs that read, "Justice for Africa, truth over power." A seasoned African BBC journalist, reporting from Ouagadougou, closed his segment with a chilling truth. What President Ibrahim Traoré has unleashed goes far beyond Burkina Faso or even Africa. He has triggered a global conversation about the North-South divide, international financial injustice, and the responsibility of the powerful over the vulnerable. In Washington, Brussels, and even within Africa's own corrupt corridors, everyone now understands. The post-Traoré world will not resemble the one that came before it. In his office in Ouagadougou, as the evening wind rustled the Burkinabe flag outside his window, Traoré stood alone. He knew he had crossed the Rubicon. There was no going back. But in his heart, he also knew something deeper. He had returned. To his people what had long been stolen from them, the dignity of truth. And the world would remember that on February 25th, 2025, Africa didn't just speak, it roared.